Oh, hello. I'm Dr. Steve Owens. I'm visitor guide with the California Trail Interpretive Center, located just west of Elko, Nevada. I'm standing next to marker C36, part of the Trails West Rail Marker series of markers scattered all across the western United States, marking various places along the California Trail. This trail marker, C36, is located between the communities of Osino and Berrien, just east of Elko. I wanted to tell you a little bit of the story associated with this one today. The trail marker C36 has a plaque on it that has a diary quote from James Presley Yeager from August 11th, 1863. In 1863, Yeager left his home in Kentucky and traveled west to California and wrote a diary along the way. And when he got to this point, when he got to the Humboldt River, of course, like all the immigrants, and the main California Trail was following the Humboldt River as it traveled across what is now the state of Nevada. James Yeager on August 10th was actually camped somewhere around Halleck, Nevada, and on August 11th he was making his way along the Humboldt River, and he came to this point during the day. And in that diary, he started telling a story about some sand hills that he had to cross. You can see in the distance the Humboldt River as it moves across the floodplain, approaching this hill. You can possibly also see down in the distance the trail, the original trail that the immigrants would follow as they came across, approaching this hill. The trail marks can still be seen. It has been driven on with modern day vehicles, and so the trail is pretty easy to see there. You might also notice below me here some what are called swales, places where the land is a little bit depressed, where the bushes have been kind of cleared away a little bit, and that actually is original trail at this point. Vehicles are not currently driving on this as the trail approached up the hill. I'll take the camera down and show a little bit of that just so that you can see it a little bit closer. On August 11th, Yeager described having camped along the Humboldt River near where Halleck is now, and today's travel alongside the river has brought his company to several hill crossings. He mentions a high mountain on the south side of the river and several low bluffs on the north side. Using the tools of a modern virtual historian, we can investigate some of what Yeager was describing. In this view, using Google Earth, you can see the Humboldt River in the left foreground with its floodplain beside it. In the distant left, the tall mountain that Yeager was seeing is known today as Elko Mountain. The first of three low hills on the right can be seen in this view with a railroad bed cutting through the hill. I'm near the community of Elburz right now. The California Trail follows approximately where the railroad tracks in this area lie. When the immigrants would travel through this area, they would often comment on the high mountain that they would see at this point. That's Elko Mountain, as we know it today. The railroad tracks are following the bottomlands of the Humboldt River right here, and this would often get very marshy and swampy, and the immigrants would have to head into the what they would call the highlands, the upper regions, and they would have to travel across several hills to avoid Osino Canyon, which is coming up just ahead. As seen from above, the California Trail in this area followed approximately where the existing railroad bed lies. The three hills that Yeager describes crossing are illustrated here. Listen to Yeager's diary entry as we fly over the region in Google Earth. The last portion of the entry is engraved on the trail's west marker plaque. Here we was forced to leave the river on the account of bluffs coming up to the river on both sides, a high mountain on the south side and a low one on this. 1/2 of a mile over the low mountain found us in the river bottom again, and 3/4 of a mile in the river bottom brought us to another hill. 1/2 mile over the hill found us in the river bottom again. At this last hill, the river ran through another narrow pass. 1 mile down the river bottom, and we came to another narrow river pass and hill and had to leave the river. The ascent of this hill was worse than the others on account of sand. Over this hill about a 1/2 mile, and we were in the river bottom once more. As immigrants were approaching the third sand hill, you could see Osino Canyon in the distance there. The river gets pretty narrow there, and so the immigrants would be forced to travel over the hill. You can even see in the distance there, right next to Interstate 80, the original trail as it goes up and over the hill. It has been driven on with two-wheel vehicles, four-wheel vehicles today, but that's still the route that the immigrants would follow over this third hill. As they passed over these hills, the immigrants would often comment about the dust or the sand being so thick it would blow up and it would be very deep for their wheel tracks. Of course, it's winter now and things are pretty well packed, but you can even see right here where the sand is in the road, and at least in the summertime I've driven up here and it's very soft and very difficult. Makes for difficult driving or walking or climbing. Yerkes Diary is historically interesting, especially with regard to Nevada history. Having been written in 1863, it offers descriptions of Nevada shortly after the Comstock Lode silver discovery and during Nevada's existence as a U.S. territory, just prior to its admission to the Union as the 36th state. If you'd like to download and read his diary, use your internet browser to navigate to the web address shown below. Yerkes Diary was published in the Nevada Historical Society Quarterly in 6 parts. The quarterlies can be downloaded as PDF documents, and the diary was printed in the spring, summer, fall, and winter editions from 1970, and the spring and summer editions from 1971. The August 11th entry can be found in the winter 1970 edition. James Presley Yeager is not the only immigrant to write about these hills. If you go about 2 miles further east from marker C36 to the Rindon exit, you'll find marker C35. It has an inscription from James Pritchard that says, "We have to cross hills along here to avoid bends in the river and also canyons." Quite a few of the other immigrants mention the areas in this region. Joseph Berrien in 1849 says, "After crossing a small tributary of the river, we ascended the hills in order to avoid a canyon through which the river passes." Well, the tributary that he's referring to is the North Fork of the Humboldt River, seen here just south of where Interstate 80 crosses it. Just a few other examples of diary entries include Bennett Clark from 1849. "We crossed a stream of some size just above where it empties into Humboldt. Here the river passed through a narrow gorge between the mountains, and our road lay across some sand hills." Elisha B. Lewis, also from 1849, "Our travel this afternoon has been over high rolling hills to avoid the canyons in the mountains through which the river makes its way. Our road today has been good, but the dust, which is from 3 to 6 inches deep and as light as ashes, being blown up in such clouds as to render it impossible to see the teams 1/2 of the time, and some of the time being quite difficult to find the way ourselves." Finally, Lorenzo Sawyer in 1850 wrote, "We came to another large branch of the river coming in from the northwest. From this branch the road passes over ridges and valleys, occasionally losing and touching the river." You can see the Humboldt River off in the distance there. So after the immigrants came over this third hill, they would comment about being back into the bottomlands of the Humboldt River. Oftentimes in their diaries, they would mention traveling another 8 miles or so to the present location of Elko to another feature known today as the Hot Hole, and we'll talk about that in another video. Trails West trail marker C36 can be seen by taking exit 310, the Osino exit from Interstate 80. Then follow the frontage road on the south side of the interstate 2 miles east until it ends at a right-hand turn. Park next to the fence and continue up the dirt road east over the hilltop to marker C36. Trails West trail marker C35 can be seen by taking exit 314, the Rendon exit, and traveling 1/10 of a mile due south. It can be a fascinating endeavor to use modern research and geographical tools to relate diaries to historical and geographical locations. And here at the California Trail Interpretive Center, it's our desire to help you to investigate those things yourself. Not only do we have exhibits that tell the story of the historical California Trail, but we also have resources here in our gift shop that you can use to further your own investigation. For instance, there are trail guides produced by Trails West and other companies that tell you about locations along the California Trail, the locations of the Trails West T markers, and other books that tell the story of the trail. We also encourage you to come out yourself and explore our exhibits and learn more about the trail before you head out on your own to explore it. And another thing we want to encourage you to do is download the mobile app that we have available on the Apple and the Google app stores. This app will provide you with tons of information about the diaries and about the artwork and about the artifacts and the various things that you will find here in the center. You can take virtual tours, watch videos, but you'll also find many of the Trails West markers mapped in there with descriptions and a lot of other information that will help you on your own journey along the historic California Trail. Thanks for watching.